What is the single most powerful thing you can do when someone disrespects you?
The worst thing I could do is give you the power to decide for me how I'm going to show up right now. And if I'm able to cut that off and say, no, I hear that, but I still get to choose how I'm going to respond. That's not going to get a reaction out of me. And so one of the ways you can do that I love, is I'm going to add about 5 to 7 seconds of nothing, just silence. Because just like we talked about with liars, people who are disrespectful fear that quiet. They want the immediate reaction. They want that hit of dopamine because they're feeling bad about something. They're fearful of something. They're angry about something. So they want to get a rise out of you that tells them it's okay for me to feel this way. I need to feel justified in my anger. So if they throw a level 3 insult and you come back at a level 7 insult, when they go, you're exactly what I just said you were. I knew it. I knew you were that kind of person. And now you've just given them all the opportunity and justification to go to a level 10, right? And it's now your fault. And so rather than jumping up and giving them something to grapple onto, that moment of silence, it's scary to them. That's why they'll feel it a lot of the times with, they'll capitulate in some way. They'll find some way to draw it back, or it's going to make them really uneasy. But what you're doing in that moment is signaling control. I was saying, you can choose to say what you want to say. Knock yourself out. That's not going to get the kind of reaction you thought from me.
Can you show me an example? So, Jefferson, this jacket is silly.
Oh, that was rough. Yeah. So if you were to say, Jefferson, that jacket is the stupidest looking jacket I've ever seen, I'd give it 5 to 7 seconds of nothing. And then I'd look at my jacket and I'd look at you and I would say, I need you to say that again to me. I need you to say that again.
That jacket is silly.
Oh, so you meant to hurt my feelings when you said this jacket was silly.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I thought so. And that's where you cut off, and that's where you leave. If they double down and say, I think that was dumb jacket, and then you go, did you mean to offend me when you insulted my jacket or insulted my looks in some way? And they go, yes, I did. You go, I thought so. Thanks. In other words, thank you for showing me exactly who you are. Why in the world would I be around Jack if he can't find another way of saying, hey, that jacket's not really the best look for you? Or why would they even care? So a lot of the times when you can parse that out and ask them to repeat it or use a did you mean, it's going to question a lot of things that if you were in a group, people aren't going to like. So like one-on-one, people are they're more comfortable being ugly than they are in a group, because then it comes into evaluation of the community. As a community, are we going to approve that behavior or not? And so that goes into the court of public opinion.
You've said before something along the lines of a sign of low emotional intelligence is when someone gives the silent treatment. Mm-hmm. So are you saying that the difference here is don't go silent and stay here with me, simply just repeat, clarify, and then leave?
If somebody's going to insult you, that doesn't mean you just take it and go quiet. That's not it. I'm saying if somebody's saying something ugly, imagine your words, Jack, just fell on the table right here. And they're just imagine them being a ugly looking gray glob of stuff, right? I get to have the chance to, instead of taking your words and immediately holding it and throwing it back at you, I'm saying it's not even going to reach me. It's going to fall. And I get to look at it and look at you and go, you good with that? Is that really where you're going? Is that what you're proud of? To have that moment. And then I get to clarify and respond. But that 5 to 7 seconds is a way for you to hear what you said back. Now we compare that to the silent treatment. Silent treatment is much longer. Silent treatment is, we're talking, instead of 5 seconds, we're talking 5 hours. We're talking half of the day. It's usually because somebody's being petty in some way. That is low emotional intelligence. I would much rather somebody say, hey, I hear you. I need to take a break from this conversation so that I can approach it in a way that's going to be helpful and not more hurtful. Does that work? And they go, there's nothing wrong with taking a break. It's that you have to be able to relay that you're taking one. And there's a difference between just closing the door and saying, hey, I'm heading to the store. I'll be back in a few hours. You have to be able to, one is having high emotional intelligence, and that is saying, I realize that me leaving this is probably going to cause additional anxiety and cause you to want to chase and pursue. And that's going to cause me to want to leave. That's going to cause me to want to be avoidant.
How do you argue with someone who never sees anything wrong with their actions?
Meaning no matter what they do, they think that they're the best. You have to realize that what you're doing at that moment is you're not speaking to them, you're speaking to something deeper. You're speaking to their identity. And so if I am talking to somebody who you can tell just they're refusing to admit that they could possibly be wrong about this, I have to see that through the filter of this is an insecurity that was there long before we ever started this conversation, probably long before I ever met this person. And so they're not going to just flip right over and go, holy smokes, you're right. I was so wrong about this. And just this little conversation, it's going to take a lot of conversations. If I am trying to open somebody up in their way of thinking, I'm going to use questions that are going to try and open them up, but get a no answer. For example, I might say, are you again looking at this a little bit more objectively? That's a question that you'd probably much easier to say no to. If you were to say, yes, I'm against looking at this objectively. That's a kind of like court of public opinion where you go, nobody's going to agree with that. Like you put yourself too far on the ledge. Or I might ask them the question.
But they might typically say, but I'm being objective.
Yeah, that's true. But what would it look like? And so that's another one that I like to just, what would it look like if you were to look at this a little differently? Or so if I could do with, are you against? Would it offend you? Anything that's going to get to a no of, are you against looking at this differently? Would it offend you if I asked you to look at this a different way? What would you need to hear to change your mind? What would you need to hear to look at this differently? Those are ways that kind of pull somebody who's so tunnel visioned out of it. So when you say intentionally, it's more of, what am I tying my worth to in that moment? Who's worth getting out of my chair for? Like if I am wondering, is this person worth my time and effort? The question I have to ask is, before I know who to stand up to, who's worth getting out of my chair. If that person is not worth my time and effort, then yeah, I might. Let's say somebody said, hey, the sky is green. I would much rather go, you know what? It is. You're so right. You take all that. Is that losing the argument? Maybe. That to me is having peace.